Welcome back to The Careful Diver. My name is Juji Carminati. Today's video is 5 things that I wish they taught just a little bit different in open water. Okay. Number 1, I wish they spent more time teaching you how to do SMB and DSMB deployment. So SMB is surface marker buoy. It's the big orange sausage. It can be pink, it can be yellow, but basically it is the safety device, right? The surface safety device that all of us are going to deploy once in the open water course at the surface in the open water portion of your course. If you're doing PADI, there are variations on this. And I really wish that training agencies spent more time teaching and practicing how to deploy a DSMB, because it is literally the one thing you're going to need as soon as you're out boat diving, even if you're just shore diving and you want to let people know where you are. And I found that even for myself, it wasn't a skill that I really worked on until much later in my diving career. And so that is something that I would encourage you as a new diver to go out and practice. Like literally when you're out diving, and I know you want to go see the fishies and have a good time, but I would really encourage you to get out in the water, put yourself at 15 feet 5 meters with your reel and your DSMB, and just deploy it. Then go up, grab it, and then maybe just go down and do it again, especially if you can find a place that has a bit of a sandy bottom and you can just be assured that you won't have those big ups and downs when you are deploying it, because that's actually really standard. It happens. It's really common that you're going to really lose buoyancy when you're trying to deploy the DSMB. The second thing that I wish that they taught open water divers is to put your fins, if you have open heeled fins, on your wrists, right? To put them on like bracelets when you are exiting a ladder. And the reason I say that is because the way you are taught to do, I mean, first of all, it's actually not taught or explained anywhere in the course materials, so it's just up to the instructors to teach it. But I see a lot of students, especially newbie students, that are out on boat dives and that come to the ladder, and the standard procedure is to hand your fins up to the dive master. Now, I don't like that for a couple of reasons. One, it requires a dive master to be on the ready, and they're not always on the ready. They have other things to do. Maybe there's another diver, maybe they have an emergency to deal with, maybe they're just distracted. Second, it puts you on the ladder for more time than you need to be, and that can be a little dicey when it is surfy. You have ladders that will bang up against the boat, and you are there on that ladder getting, pushed up and down while you are trying to hang on and give your fin up to the dive master. And that is just unsafe and impractical. And then the other thing I don't like about the fact that you are taught to give up your fins is that you then have no fins for a little bit while you are on the ladder. And should you fall back into the water for any reason, and there can be many, you lose your balance, you lose your grip, it is surfy, whatever, you are back in the water with your gear and no fins. And if they have a trail line, you can hang on to that, but you already have several failure points that you have stacked up against you, and you have no propulsion mechanism left on your body. So I would strongly urge instructors to include the explanation that if people have open heeled fins, they should consider putting them taking them off under the water, taking one, putting on the wrist, putting the other one on the wrist like a bracelet, and then just getting yourself up the ladder to the boat deck. The third thing that isn't mentioned, and I thought it was a helpful tip, and I certainly share it with my students, is the trick of putting half alcohol, half white vinegar in your ears after dives. I've seen that nowhere, and I've recently had a student who had swimmer's ear, and actually they did this and they still got swimmer's ear. But for sure, this is a very helpful piece of advice that I only came across much later. Yes, there's also a bunch of drops and things like that you can put in your ears, and those work fine, but I like to just get myself some white vinegar, alcohol, just disinfecting alcohol. I put it in a little bottle for myself, and that's what I take with me on liveaboards, and I put that in my ears every evening. And I will also point out that when you are going in still waters, such as lakes or ponds or things like that, then it is even more important to do that, because the bacterial load tends to be a little bit higher, and you want to make sure that your ears stay nice and disinfected. I have also, completely anecdotally, no science behind this portion of it, found that it also seems to be a bit of a calming agent when I've pushed a little or hurt myself, have been a little aggressive with the Valsalva. And I found that if I put that in there, the next morning the pain is gone and I am ready to go diving again. So that's something that I would share with my students. The fourth thing that I've seen that continues to be standard, and it just irks me a little. I mean, I just think we could be doing better. Is that the alternate regulator, so the secondary regulator, continues to be a regular regulator, right? So it has an up and a down, and it is directional. And I really think we should be moving away from that. And if you're going to have an alternate air source that you hand off to another diver, and that is how the open water system does it for most of the agencies, then it should be a puck. It should be bidirectional. It should be a lot easier for a beginner, especially, to pass it off to their buddy. I understand technical divers and some agencies have the necklace situation. So for those who are not familiar, the idea is that you will hand off your reg and that you will have a reg around your neck on a necklace, and that you can put that immediately in your mouth. And there's a strong argument for why that's a good idea. Usually the hose on that reg you have in your mouth is much longer, and also it's because you know that is working. You had it in your mouth 20 seconds ago, right? Or 3 seconds ago. So that's a completely alternate, and I understand it's out there and it's a perfectly great system. It's just not what it's taught in the introductory level classes. So for the introductory level classes, I really wish we would have a movement towards a more puck-like secondary alternate air source, because it would make it so much easier to hand it off, and then I wouldn't see students put it the wrong way or give it the wrong way, etc., etc. And then the last thing that has me a little befuddled is the way gas calculations are done. There's a lot of inconsistency among agencies about how we calculated. The one that I saw most recently, I don't really love. It's safe, it's conservative, it's a great approach. It's just not what happens out in the field, in the world. So basically, the idea is that you know that your reserve is not yours. I always say this to my students: the reserve is not yours. The reserve of air belongs to your family. You don't get to touch it. It's what keeps you safe. It's what brings you home. It's what makes sure that you get back to your loved one. So it's not yours to use. Okay. But then the idea is that, okay, but then you have to calculate how much gas you're going to use during your safety stop. And then you are allowed to use a third of what is left after that for the first part of your dive. And when you get to a third of that, then you got to come back, right? The third of what is left after you deduct your reserve and your safety stop air. But the reality is that I have never seen an open water beginner diver calculate any of that when they're out in the wild. And so I think it would make sense for students to be aware that, yes, there is that calculation. And yes, that would be the best approach to doing things. But realistically, when you are out in the world, this is what's going to happen. You are going to decide, or a dive master is going to tell you that at half tank we turn the dive around, and half tank is about 1500 psi in a 3000, 2800, 2900 psi tank. And so it would be nice to see some recognition that there is the theoretically safest way to do things, but there is also a more practical way that things actually happen. And I think that would help clear up some confusion, especially when you have beginners that are out in the world with dive masters trying to get their first few dives in. That concludes this video. I hope it was informative, and I look forward to seeing you around. Again, my name is Juji Carminati. This is the Careful Diver channel, and if you liked this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you, and as always, dive safe.